All right, everyone, welcome back here to WMSC Upper Montclair on the Morning Buzz. And today, guys, we have a special guest, Emily Ehman, who is part of the Big Ten Network as an analyst. And we are very appreciative of her joining here on the show. How are you doing today?
Doing well, just game prepping. Got a game this week, but I'm happy to be talking to you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, what game this weekend?
So I have Ohio State, Minnesota on Thursday night. They kind of switched up the schedule a little bit. So we have Thursday night games, I think for the next 2 weeks, but it's a big game. They're kind of close in the standings. So I'm excited.
That is an exciting. You know what? I'm interested to know before I get into my questions written on my little paper here. What is the preparation process like that for a big game like that?
Oh gosh, yeah. So it's funny. A lot of people think, you just kind of sit down in the booth and start talking, but honestly, that's definitely the easy part of calling games. The preparation is kind of the hardest part of my job, I guess. Multiple days you have calls with coaches. So I talk to each coach, and then this week we're actually talking to a player each on each team. And what I do is I come up with a spot chart for each team. So I'll have the whole roster out and my notes on them. So any relevant stat lines, what the coaches have kind of said about them, any trends that I've seen over the last few matches, and then scouting wise, where they like to hit, how they pass the ball, what their sets might be like. And so I have that. And then I have a sheet on each team for notes. So just general stuff, what the coach has been saying about the team over the last few weeks, where been improving, what their last games have looked like, if they're ranked in the Big Ten or nationally in any stat lines. So that's kind of, spend a few days on each team figuring out my notes before each game. And then once you get to the actual game, that's kind of the easy part. I just get to talk volleyball and kind of use the knowledge I have. But yeah, the prep part is definitely what takes the longest. And I would say the most difficult part of being an analyst.
For sure. Okay, so I noticed the helmet in the back. It is a Northwestern helmet. For those who don't know, college. So you are a former student athlete as well, and I was wondering what was it like trying to balance not only athletics, but school, and then also trying to like live life at least a little bit during your time there. What was that process for you?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about, now it's kind of work life balance, but back then it's like you have academics, athletics, and then you're also trying to balance a social life. And somewhere in there, you're also supposed to figure out how to get sleep. And I think for me, that was kind of the part that lacked for sure. I think I started figuring out that part as time went on. But no, I mean, one of the reasons why I wanted to go to Northwestern was because the academics and the athletics were the top notch. They were the best of the best. They had Big Ten athletics combined with top 10 academics. And for me, that was really important going to college. And so I knew going in that, social life might kind of diminish a little bit, but having, good grades and, excelling in volleyball was something that I really wanted to do. So I kind of knew that social life was going to lack a little bit. I joined a sorority my freshman year. I didn't do too much with them, but just to kind of make friends outside of the athletic world, and then classes and all of that. But I think another way that it's not didn't necessarily suffer, but I wanted to get involved in a lot of different things. So I wanted to do student radio. I wanted to do, we had a sports broadcasting show that we did each week, kind of just student led, over talking about Northwestern athletics, all of that. It was stuff that I wanted to get involved in, but I kind of couldn't, just because of volleyball and school and trying to balance a social life in there. So like I couldn't get involved in those things until after volleyball was done senior year. And yeah, I think it was tough, but everyone kind of tries to find that balance. People, completely take out their social life, or you add the social life in one of those other areas is probably going to hurt. So I tried to find the best balance I could. But I think for me, obviously volleyball kind of came first in terms of being ready to go each day. But then I definitely put academics very much up there. I wanted to get good grades, wanted to be in good relationships with my professors and all of that. So it was a balance, but I think it worked out. Just like I said, lack of sleep. That was a big,
You
a
gotta
big
love it.
issue, I
Who doesn't
think.
like sleeping? So you are also sadly a pandemic graduate. And for those who don't know, are still actually in a pandemic, believe it or not. COVID's still around. And that has been a severe struggle for thousands of people across the states and across the world, where you do all this work, you spend your 4 or 5, however many years you are in school, you graduate, you're excited, and then the world's just over. So what was that process like for you trying to find work in a world where the world was shut down?
Yeah. So Northwestern's in the quarter system. So one of our quarters ends in March, and I was graduating early. I finished up my credits and kind of just wanted to have senior spring. So I wanted to have from March to June to kind of like hang out, job search, do all that. So I actually graduated at the worst possible time. I graduated in March 2020, trying to break into the sports industry, which of course sports are fully shut down. A lot of my other friends that we're graduating earlier, all that, we're getting jobs in, you could say normal industries or normal jobs that were still hiring. But for me, sports were completely shut down. So there weren't even any jobs available in sports during that time. And for me, trying to break into the sports broadcasting industry at a time where sports weren't happening was obviously very unideal and kind of the worst case scenario. So I also didn't have that much experience. Like I was saying, I couldn't join those student clubs and I couldn't do all of that. So trying to build up some kind of reel or something to send out to people to say, hey, I actually know how to do this. That wasn't really going to happen for me. So I realized I wasn't going to get a job. I wasn't going to do sports. I thought about just kind of caving and doing, getting some job that I didn't actually want and just kind of sticking with that for a little bit. But I kind of took a step back and realized that sports broadcasting, it's been something I wanted to do since I was 9 years old. I've kind of always known I wanted to do it and I wasn't going to give up that easy. So I actually ended up starting a volleyball talk show. It was called Big Ten Volley Talk. And basically what I would do is interview players around the Big Ten, coaches, alumni, kind of anyone I could talk to about Big Ten volleyball, because that was something that hadn't really been done before. NCAA does a little bit of coverage around volleyball, but not to the extent that I thought was adequate and not specifically for the Big Ten. So I just kind of started doing that, and I was hopeful that it would kind of take off. So I started emailing volleyball publications and got attached to one volleyballmag.com, who started running it as like a digital series, I guess. And so that really helped. And then I had actually interned at Big Ten Network during college in the summer. So I had a few contacts there and would email them kind of like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I know volleyball pretty well. I know Big Ten volleyball really well. I have the contacts to do this, put me on a game. And so I would just, during the entire pandemic, I would just constantly be emailing people and looking for any opportunities possible. So that's how I secured my first gig with Athletes Unlimited, which is a professional volleyball league. They were doing volleyball in the spring, and I had a friend who works their social media there. So I messaged her and said, hey, if you guys need anyone to do anything, whether that's running social media, doing anything on air, let me know. And lucky for me, they were looking for a volleyball digital host for the season. And so I kind of got brought into that, which was kind of a huge break for me. So I got to go cover a professional volleyball league, the only one in the United States, in Dallas, in a bubble for 8 weeks. So I was like major exposure, doing sidelines, interviewing players before and after games, and just hanging out with these professional athletes all the time. And I think that really kind of shot my career in a direction that I wanted to go. And after graduation, it was nothing for a really long time. And then I kind of just started making my own opportunities, figuring out ways to get involved in any kind of facet that I could. And I think that really helped. And then Big Ten Network ended up bringing me on as an analyst and now digital host, kind of from that work with Athletes Unlimited. So after graduation, it was tough. But I think for me, the number one thing I did to just kind of set myself apart was doing my own thing and making my own opportunities. And I think it paid off.
Absolutely. So on the Wednesday, so each show for our show is different hosts. And then for me, three of my co-hosts are all journalism majors. And obviously you're in that career form. What advice would you give to them in their process of not only being in school as a journalism major, but afterwards?
Yeah, I think that was one thing I noticed in college was like I said, I always felt like I was really behind because I couldn't really necessarily get involved in all these things. I did a few internships in college, but I felt like constantly everyone was a better writer than me. Everyone was a better broadcaster than me. Everyone knew sports or whatever better than me. And I think something I'm learning now is reflecting back, everyone's on their own timeline. There's no linear path to where you want to go, whether you want to be the lead editor at the New York Times or you want to work local sports news. Like there is no right path to do it. So I think my number one piece of advice is just know that your path is your path and you're going to get to where you want to go. And not everyone's timeline is the same. Not everyone's path is the same. So I think just being comfortable in what you're doing, keep grinding. It might not feel like it's going to pay off, but whatever you're doing is going to work for you in the future. And just knowing that you are where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I will also take that advice as well as a non-journalism major.
Yeah,
Thank you.
kind of applicable to everyone.
Yeah. So you are part of the Big Ten Network, and I'm curious to know what has been your favorite moment in your time there so far?
Yeah. I mean, definitely a lot of cool moments. I mean, I remember my first game. I was just talking to my like head producer about this the other day. I feel like I fully just blacked out during that game. Like I don't even remember anything that happened. I was so nervous. But I think that's gotten better as we've gone on. But I think my favorite part or favorite memory now, I think we usually do probably about like 75% of our games from a studio in Chicago. So we're not actually at the games that we call a lot of the times, but I have been lucky enough to go on site for a few of them. And I think my favorite thing I remember was actually this season. It was Wisconsin, Michigan State. So not really like a high stakes game. It was probably going to be a blowout by Wisconsin. And it was one of my on-site games, but we actually got to sit down like right next to the court. And for a lot of our games, we're like up in the rafters or like wherever they just want to put us and not necessarily that close to the actual action. And that was the first time that I had called a game like right next to the court. And I remember just like watching them like, oh my gosh, these women are so good. And even I played against a lot of these people. Like I knew how good they were, but I think just being so close and seeing them after, the year of COVID where we couldn't go watch sporting events, like I was just blown away and was like, I have the coolest job on the planet. Like I literally just get to sit here and watch volleyball and talk about it. Like it was so cool. And then, the players kind of come up to you after and say, hey, and I think that moment definitely stuck out, just sitting down for that game and being so excited that we actually could be like next to the athletes and next to the action.
Yeah. So there's a lot of big events in sports, I'm sure, as you know. For you, what would be the dream event you would love to broadcast for?
Yeah. I mean, right now, I think I would love to do either sidelines or call a game for the Final Four for volleyball. That's kind of a goal of mine. And then more long term, I kind of have a few different goals that like they all could happen or could maybe one each. But I would love to be a host for College Game Day. I think college sports are way more interesting than professional sports. The players are way cooler. They're way more accessible. And I think their stories are better. So I would like to do sidelines for either a national championship college football game or national championship college basketball game. Or host game day. I think those are all kind of interchangeable, but I think those big stages for me are something that I've always kind of aspired to. I grew up watching people like Erin Andrews, hosting that stuff and being on the sidelines for it. And that was something that from a really early age, I've always wanted to do.
That is a goal of mine one day as well. I don't know how I'm gonna get. I feel like I'd like to be a guest celebrity picker for College Game Day.
Mhm.
That would be life is peaked for me. I just love the show. But you mentioned Aaron Andrews. What other people in sports media do you think you looked up to growing up?
Yeah, I think, growing up is kind of different than now, especially because back then, like there weren't for me there weren't that many females in the profession. And now I feel like we're seeing a ton. And so I think the people I've looked up to have kind of changed a little bit. The first sideline reporter I ever watched, my uncle used to coach basketball at IU. And so I would go to all of those games and like hang out with the sideline reporters and all that. And I remember Allison Williams used to come to a lot of the games and I would kind of follow her around. And that was my first taste of getting that kind of exposure. But I think now, especially some people that I look up to, I've always looked up to Sarah Spain. I think we hold a lot of the same values and she's so outspoken about them. And I like the way that she handles herself in an industry that's very male dominated. And I love the way that she's so confident about what she does. So she's definitely someone probably since early high school that I've looked up to and kind of tried to emulate and, take in a little bit of stuff that she does and try to implement that into the work that I do.
For sure. So now I've asked all my serious questions, and now we're gonna get a little bit lighter, as I like to say. So obviously I've mentioned your little helmet in the back, and I don't know if you know this, but there's a football season going on, and for you, you don't have to worry about it because Northwestern is a team like they're 3-5, I think. So in the Big Ten,
Exactly.
who do you have as potential champions of the Big Ten?
For football.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like the run that Wisconsin's making in the West right now. I feel like the West was like it was so Iowa for so long. And now you have these other teams, Minnesota, Wisconsin, like kind of catching up, which as a Northwestern fan, I love that. The Iowa Northwestern rivalry is random, but very fun for me. So I like Wisconsin in the West. I think in the East, I think at the end of the day, Ohio State's going to win it again. It's not,
No.
I know. I just think end of the day, like they know how to do it. I know CJ Stroud is young, but like he's a freaking bomb. Like he's just explosive as heck. I think I don't want to see Wisconsin in the championship game because that's annoying, but I think I could see them getting there. And so I feel like an Ohio State Wisconsin matchup, I think Ohio State's going to kind of take anyone, to be honest, which
Yeah.
is, I know, very boring. I wish it wasn't. I wish I could say Michigan State. I don't think it's going to happen. I think if you figure out a way to shut down Kenneth Walker, you can figure it out, but not that people really can. But I think Ohio State, it's boring. I wish it wasn't my answer, but
It's like the
that's the one.
Alabama problem in college
Yeah,
football.
exactly. And
Same
it's not
team.
going to be my cats. So
No, there's no chance.
they're struggling.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that anymore. Let's put them to sleep. So outside of sports, we've had a very sports centric conversation. And for you, I've asked this question to a lot of people, whether it's musicians or artists, and they always say, well, that is my passion. I don't talk about anything else. So maybe it'll work this time. So for you, other than sports, what do you like to do?
I mean, I don't want to say same answer, but God, I don't have time to do anything. But I love pop culture. I will say, like, I potentially could see myself in some kind of entertainment role in the future. But like, I love the Bachelor franchise. I watch all those things. I was very into the Kardashians for a while, but I would say, kind of like interests outside of sports, like pop culture, entertainment, is another one that I guess you could say I'm passionate about. Like, I just really enjoy. Yeah, I worked in normal news for a while, so I was into politics for a very heavy part of my or heavy, very long part of my life. But now I think with being just so into sports, it's been hard to kind of keep up with everything. But entertainment, pop culture, definitely a passion.
Sick. Okay. So this is going to be a random question. It is breakfast right now. What would you order at a restaurant?
Okay, well, when I'm home, I make the same breakfast literally every day. I have an English muffin with one egg, and the other side of the English muffin is jam. If I go out to breakfast, I order really basic breakfast. I'll get like two eggs and sausage and toast and hash browns. But sometimes, if I'm feeling a little like frisky, I'll order chicken and waffles. That's like my favorite breakfast. But I can't order it that much because then I feel terrible for like a
Yeah,
week.
that one like lives with you for a solid month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I have another question. I've said this before. What are your thoughts on maple syrup?
I love maple syrup, except I think,
Interview's over. Goodbye.
but really like good maple syrup, not
Mhm.
like Aunt Jemima's or whatever that is. Like that's straight sugar. Like I want like Canadian maple syrup
Got it.
that's not like actual sugar.
I think just regular, like the fake syrup has ruined it for me to the point where the
Yeah,
idea of syrup is disgusting to me. So
that's fair. I mean, it's just like straight sugar. But I will say, like
exactly.
when I go somewhere, I put syrup on like my bacon. I put it on everything. Put it on my hash browns. Like I think it adds. Between that and
Or
hot
syrup
sauce,
on
I'll
hash
drown
brown.
stuff in hot sauce.
Interesting.
I'll drown stuff in syrup. So
I get it with the hot sauce. You lost me with the syrup though, completely. Okay. So, are you a coffee or a tea person?
oh, coffee right
Mm,
now. Yeah.
for
About
sure.
usually 2 cups a day. I also do drink tea, but in the morning, always coffee. If I need like a little pick me up, I'll have like a nice breakfast, English breakfast tea at like 2, but
Mhm.
coffee all the way.
What's inside the cup though? Is there a certain flavor profile you go to, or is it just straight black coffee?
No, I can do black coffee. I like not that strong. I like a little bit of honey. Kind of depends on the day. Like in the summer, I'll do like a few shots of espresso. and like a little bit of oat milk or something. This is literally just coffee with foam and honey. Kind of
Hmm.
boring.
Honey in your coffee?
Yeah, I think sometimes like just it tastes less sugary to me, and I also like the little flavor it gives it. Because if I just put sugar in, it's like a little too bland. But I need like a little bit of sweetness, or like one pump of vanilla or whatever. I had like one pump of pumpkin the other day because I thought I'd spice it up.
Nice. Okay, so actually, you brought it up. So pumpkin is a very controversial topic here at the station.
Pumpkin.
Yeah, no, like pumpkin ice coffee, pumpkin spice
Oh,
coffee. Yeah,
mhm.
yeah, yeah. So that flavor profile is very, it's either you love it or you hate it. Are you pro pumpkin spiced coffees or no?
Yes, but if you so like if you go to Starbucks and order a pumpkin spice latte like straight up, it tastes like you literally stuck your head inside a pumpkin and like can't get it out. But if you do like one pump, like I was saying, I think that's perfect because like you get a little bit of the spice, a little bit of the sweetness, but it's not like overpowering your entire body.
For sure. Well, you guys, that has been my list of questions. Very random towards the end, and that's how I like to close things out. We cannot thank you enough for coming on the show. We appreciate it. And you have okay, actually, one last question. Where could they find you at least?
Yeah, well, I do a lot on social media. So at Emily Ehman, EMILYEHMAN on Twitter and Instagram and wherever else you can find me. But yeah, and then tune in to Big Ten Volleyball and Big Ten Network. I mean, we have a lot of really good teams right now, like 7 in the top 25 right now. Every game is like a slugfest. So even if you don't love volleyball, tune in and I guarantee you'll find it interesting and fun.
There you have it, guys. See you next time on the Morning Buzz.